Standing at the podium during my promotion party, I should have felt on top of the world. The room was filled with colleagues, friends, and family, all gathered to celebrate my success. The air buzzed with the sound of clinking glasses, laughter, and the warmth of recognition. I had worked for this moment. Then she raised her champagne glass. My wife, Jennifer, stood there in her elegant dress, her smile as dazzling as ever, and delivered a toast that sent a chill straight through me. To my husband, the biggest loser I've ever known. The room erupted into laughter. Loud. Booming. Unapologetic. I stood there, frozen, my proud smile still lingering on my face, now feeling absurd. A tight knot twisted in my stomach. My hands clenched around the podium. I was the man they were here to celebrate, yet in that moment, I felt like the punchline of a cruel joke. They say success is the best revenge, but no one tells you how hollow it feels when the one person who's supposed to stand by your side doesn't even believe in you. For the past 10 years, I had built everything from the ground up. A thriving real estate firm. A dream home. A reputation for turning failures into stepping stones. Every late night, every risk, every moment of doubt, I had pushed through it all. Yet Jennifer never seemed to see the victories. Only the flaws. Jennifer had been my college sweetheart. Back then, she was radiant, ambitious, magnetic, one of those women who could walk into a room and own it without even trying. I fell hard and fast. She inspired me, challenged me, made me want to be better. For years, I loved her fiercely. I believed in us. But somewhere along the way, her confidence, once something that lifted me up, became a weapon that cut me down. It started subtly, offhand comments, teasing that felt a little too sharp. Then it escalated. The eye rolls when I shared my ideas. The way she casually mentioned my past failures at dinner parties as if they were funny stories instead of struggles I had fought through. And tonight? Tonight, she didn't even bother to hide it. The promotion party, the one I had worked so hard for, the one meant to mark a milestone in my career, had become just another opportunity for her to belittle me. And as the laughter died down, as people returned to their drinks and conversations, I realized something deep inside me had shattered. And I wasn't sure if it could ever be put back together. The downtown Hilton was supposed to be a celebration of our shared success. Jennifer had been involved in every step, helping me pick the perfect suit, selecting the venue, even coordinating with my assistant to make sure every detail was flawless. It should have been a night where we toasted to everything we had built together. But as I stood there, listening to her cruel toast, the realization hit me like a freight train. She had choreographed this entire evening, not as a tribute to me, but as a stage for herself. The laughter in the room was forced, uneasy. A few of my colleagues chuckled awkwardly, shifting in their seats, unsure whether to play along or pretend they hadn't heard what she said. I forced a tight-lipped smile, raising my glass to match the moment, but my hand trembled. I looked at her, searching for something, maybe regret, maybe an apology. Instead, I found only that smirk. Sharp, smug. The kind of look that told me she had done exactly what she intended. A knife to the back, disguised as a joke. The drive home was suffocatingly silent. The city lights flashed past in a blur, but all I could focus on was the woman sitting beside me, scrolling through her phone, her lips curling into a satisfied grin now and then. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. My jaw clenched. "You didn't have to do that," I said, my voice low, controlled. Jennifer didn't even look up. "Do what?" she asked, feigning innocence. I exhaled sharply. "Humiliate me. Call me a loser in front of everyone." She laughed, cold, dismissive. "Oh, come on, David. Don't be so dramatic. It was just a joke." Then she shrugged, her tone almost bored. "Besides, it's not like they don't already think it." Her words hit harder than the champagne ever could. My knuckles whitened against the steering wheel, but I didn't say another word. Later that night, I sat alone in my home office, nursing a glass of scotch, trying to make sense of it all. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe she really had been joking. Maybe I was just too tired, too sensitive. Then my phone buzzed. A text. From her. I glanced at the screen and felt my stomach drop. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. He's so pathetic." I sat frozen, my heart pounding. That message wasn't meant for me. A cold wave of realization washed over me. My hands tightened around my glass. A dozen moments suddenly clicked into place, her growing distance, her sharp words, the way she never really saw me anymore. I wasn't imagining things. Something was deeply, irreversibly wrong. The days that followed were a blur of anger and discovery. I started paying closer attention to her late-night phone calls, the sudden business trips, the way she'd take her phone with her everywhere, disappearing into the bathroom for long stretches. I needed proof. One evening, after she left for her usual yoga class, I followed her. My suspicions were confirmed when I saw her at a dimly lit restaurant, sitting across from another man. She wasn't just having dinner, she was laughing, leaning in, her hand resting on his arm, her smile warmer than anything she had given me in months. The sight was a gut punch. I didn't confront her that night. I just turned around and walked away, my mind already shifting from pain to action. I started digging, into our finances, into our records. I found unauthorized transfers, a hidden account in her name. I hired a private investigator. And soon enough, I had everything I needed: photos, recordings, undeniable proof. Jennifer had spent years making me feel small. Now, it was time for me to take back control. The full dossier on her lover, Richard, arrived within days. A mid-level executive at her firm, mediocre, unremarkable, yet somehow the man she had chosen over me. As I sifted through the evidence, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. The humiliation. The condescension. The relentless erosion of my confidence. It wasn't random. It was calculated. A narrative she had carefully crafted to justify her betrayal. But she had underestimated me. I wasn't the loser she thought I was. That night, I made a few calls. I revised my will. Then, quietly, I moved assets into a private trust, one she couldn't touch. I installed hidden cameras around the house, capturing her secret phone calls, her hushed whispers when she thought I wasn't listening. Then, I found it. The damning evidence. A video of Jennifer and Richard, their voices low but unmistakable, discussing their endgame. "We drain the accounts. Leave him with nothing. He'll never see it coming." I sat there, watching the woman I had once loved plot my financial ruin with a smug smirk on her face. My hands shook, not with sadness, not even with rage, but with clarity. She thought she had won. She had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks later, Jennifer threw a dinner party. Despite my growing distance, she insisted I attend. Maybe she thought she still had control over me. Maybe she believed I was too broken to fight back. I played my role perfectly, mingling with the guests, nodding along to their empty conversations. Jennifer, as always, was the star of the show, charming, poised, effortless. But tonight, the spotlight was mine. After dessert, I stood, gently clinking my glass. The room quieted. "I'd like to make a toast," I began, my voice calm, steady. Jennifer's eyes flickered with suspicion. I turned to her, raising my glass. "To my wife, Jennifer, her dedication, her ambition, and her creativity. You've truly outdone yourself." A murmur rippled through the room. Jennifer stiffened. Then, with a click of the remote in my pocket, the living room wall lit up with a video. Gasps filled the air as the screen played the recording: Jennifer and Richard, their voices unmistakable, their betrayal laid bare for everyone to witness. Her face drained of color. She lunged for the remote, but I stepped aside. "Sit down, Jennifer," I said smoothly. "We're just getting started." Her lips parted, desperate to salvage control. "David, this isn't. Save it." My voice cut through her protest like a blade. I turned back to the stunned crowd. "She called me a loser. But let me tell you what a winner looks like." I laid it all out, the trust that safeguarded my assets, the divorce papers already filed, the ironclad prenup that ensured she walked away with nothing. Jennifer sat frozen, seething. "You thought you'd ruin me," I continued, my voice rising. "But you underestimated me. That's the thing about losers, we learn how to turn the odds in our favor." Her face twisted in fury. "You think you're better than me? You're pathetic, David." But her words no longer stung. They fueled me. And then, for the grand finale, I delivered the final blow. "Oh, and Richard?" I smiled. "He won't be coming to your rescue. Turns out, HR takes workplace affairs very seriously, especially when an anonymous tip exposes them. He's been fired. And his wife. She knows everything, too." Jennifer's mask cracked. "You bastard." "No, Jennifer." I exhaled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "I'm just done being your punching bag." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. And I welcomed it. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was brutal, for her. She lost her job. Her reputation. The friends who had seen her true colors that night wanted nothing to do with her. Richard. His marriage collapsed, his life in ruins. Meanwhile, I thrived. The divorce was finalized quietly. I sold the house we once shared, leaving behind the ghosts of a life that was never truly mine. Starting over was daunting, but for the first time in a long time, I felt free. One evening, as I sat in my new apartment, gazing over the city skyline, I reflected on the man I had become. I wasn't a loser. I was a survivor. A man who had faced betrayal and come out stronger. Jennifer's voice still echoed in my mind sometimes. But it no longer had power over me. Because the truth was, I had won. And that victory was mine alone. They say success is the best revenge. But the real victory? Walking away with your dignity intact, leaving the broken pieces of betrayal behind.